from and keeping it safe, if that makes sense. So that's how I understand it now. But I used to think it was just like governance meant these are all the things you have to do because, some law in some country says you have to. So I've got two wildly different views of it from the past 3 years.
Yeah, that's actually very common. A lot of people believe governance is really about do's and don'ts and the legal requirements and compliance to laws around Sarbanes-Oxley or Basel II.
That's what I thought.
Because it's the bad guy over there with the ruler in his hand, slapping it on his palm, saying, okay, behave. But it's actually much more strategic than that. And that's where COBIT's also helped us out. It's around setting vision. Absolutely, you're correct there. But it's more than just, there's the hill, let's take it, or let's become world-class. Governance has to give you more definition of what world-class means, because it's not fair as a leader to say, let's be world-class and go out and fulfill my obligation and my expectations in that context, but there's no definition of what does world-class even look like, right? So governance has to direct more than simply say, go that direction, right? Without a map, it's hard to orient on what that means. So if you think about it, and this is where COBIT has used an ISO standard, which is 38500, governance is basically three things. You need to evaluate what you're currently doing, but let's understand evaluate.
Yeah.
Evaluate means I have some reference model to evaluate against other than what I think is good. Because if that was the case, then everyone's concept of what is good would be in their own eyes. So evaluate has to be based on some reference model. What reference model would we use? We'd use either our internally developed operating model for what is expected, or we could use COBIT. But COBIT at least gives us a frame of reference to say, here are 37 different process areas. How are we doing against these areas, right? Because to evaluate, I have to have reference. So that's a reference. Evaluate says, here's where we are against what is our reference model. Then, because I can't boil the ocean, I've got to do something in a business prioritized sense where it makes sense.
Unless you're a solar flare.
And then you have unlimited power in a cosmic universe, right? But you got to direct pieces because you got all these people with their hands up saying, help, I want funding. Over here, I need funding, right?
Yeah.
So you get all these different groups saying, pick me. But you can't do everything at once. You don't have that kind of capacity, money, or resource.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to direct what you expect based on your evaluate. That's direct. I expect you to take the hill, but I want you to start with this piece, and that piece.
Mm.
So governance needs to give leadership direction in, which pieces do we pull up our socks on first? Whether it's information security, architecture,